Thank you. How are we? Yes, guys. It's so good to be here at Mom Wolf 18. Honestly, when Mom Wolf 11 came out, I was like, there's no way they're milking this for 7 more sequels, but they didn't, and here we are. Mom Wolf 18. My name is Kyle. I just want to establish my Midwest cred right up front. This is where I live. Just kidding. That's okay. That's where I live. Computer, zoom and enhance. It doesn't listen. There we go. That's too complicated. Computer, simplify. Computer, simplify again. Computer. Okay. No. Add in the best city. There it is. That's me. So I live in Springfield, Missouri, where this mural is. And I live there. I've lived there most of my life. I lived in California for like 10 seconds and then came back. So this is where I live. I currently live in the city, but like a lot of people who live in the Midwest, I also love the country, and I'm like torn between those two things. And so actually my family right now, we are under contract to buy this beautiful 10 acres of land. Yeah, that's where I'm gonna live, you guys. And it's tucked between these 2 hills you can kind of see, and you can't even see this from the road. It's like tucked away and secluded. And I always think it's really cool when a place has a name. Like C.S. Lewis's house was called the Kilns, or Jefferson had Monticello or whatever, but I always thought like you can't just give a place a name, like it has to be like organic but this place, it just has a name. I just could tell right away because it's tucked between these 2 hills and you can't see it from the road, and so obviously we're going to be calling this the Hidden Valley Ranch. And that's not a joke, you guys, and I bought the hiddenvalleyranch.com, so I'm really looking forward to a cease and desist from Procter & Gamble. Also, this has nothing to do with the talk, but my wife and I were driving the other day, and there's this like mansion on the edge of town, and they have these giant like stone pillars as their fence posts, and on top of each pillar was this like ornate concrete pineapple, and I was like, babe, and she was like, no, we're not putting bottles of ranch dressing on top of our fence. Little does she know we are, though. So my name's Kyle, and this is a little bit unique. This is what I do. I speak for a living. Here's a picture to prove it. This looks like I'm announcing a wrestling match, but they made me wear a suit, and they were like, this is the worst possible environment a speaker could be in. You're surrounded by teenagers, and it looks like I'm standing in the middle, but I'm not. I had to stand on the edge of the stage the entire time because the lights are out here and the screens are there, so if I stood in the middle, I was lit from the waist down. So that was a terrible thing. This is normally more like what I do. I speak to teenagers. I'm a motivational speaker, and I kind of hate that title. Like whenever I say motivational speaker, whatever comes into your mind is probably not what I do. Like I don't try to like scare kids straight. I don't like talk to kids about drugs or bad choices or anything like that. Like honestly, mostly I talk to kids about things like being kind to each other and having empathy and trying to make the world a better place. I talk to kids about the things that each and every one of us can do every day, like making the world a better place just through making somebody else's day better, or the things that we can do to do the opposite of that. Because each of us has the power to lift someone up or tear someone down, to make someone's day or ruin someone's day. And so I want teenagers to focus on the little things that they can do. So that's my day job, if you can call it that. But it's not like a full-time thing. Like it is my full-time job. That's really all that I do. But my job is so great. Like last week I did this gig where I drove to it, and it was like 3 hours from my house, and then I got there a little early, so I played Fortnite on the Switch for like half an hour, and then I went and I spoke for an hour, and then I drove back home, and that was my entire work week. So it's a pretty solid life, and that means that I get a lot of free time. Now, what most speakers who are smart do is they use that time to like build their business and market themselves. I don't do that. I like to do stupid projects, and so I always am making something. I like to have side projects going on. So like several years ago, this was in like 2011 maybe, I was just getting started speaking, but I was also working as a graphic designer. And this is around the time that 50 Shades of Grey came out. Some of you guys are fans, pervy soccer moms, that's cool. And I was a designer, and I thought, you know, actually there's more shades of gray than that. Like, even if you're just talking about grayscale, there's 99 shades of gray. Like, it goes from 0 to 100, 0 is white, 100 is black, so 1 through 99, why are they only showing us 50? Like, what are they hiding, you know? And so I'm like, I'm gonna do like the tell-all the shades of gray. So I made this book that was called 99 Shades of Gray, and it was just shades of gray, you guys. I can't stress that enough. It was very similar to 50 Shades of Grey, in that it started out light, but it got pretty dark by the end. The subtitle was a book for people who like the color gray. Now, me and my friends put this up on Kickstarter, and we thought, literally 0 people are going to buy this. It's a stupid idea. I would not even pay money for it myself. But there's a lot of dumbos out there, and so we made almost 10 grand on this project. Kickstarter featured it on their blog and their Tumblr and their Facebook and all this different stuff. So that was a lot of fun. And then after that, I was like, we should keep doing more dumb Kickstarter projects. And so I had a buddy of mine who was always trying to convince me to run marathons. Does anybody know people like this? They're terrible. And so, sorry if you were one of those people. But running marathons is one of these things where people are like, they're not happy to just do it themselves. It's like a multi-level marketing thing. Like they have to get everyone else to run marathons. And so he was always bugging me about running marathons, and he was like, dude, you should do it, it's fun. And I was like, that is a lie. We all know that. People die running marathons. That's not a thing that your body was supposed to do. And then he said, well, it's so cool to be able to say that you've done it. And I was like, right, but I could say that I've done it now. That's lying. It's very easy. And he was like, well, no one's going to believe you. And so I realized he was right. Like, no one's going to believe me that I've run a marathon. And then I was like, well, what would it take for people to believe me? I realized you only need 3 things, okay? Physical proof. That's like when you run a marathon, you're going to get like a medal or a badge or like a little thing. It's whatever that's called. I made them. I don't even know what it's called. And then a T-shirt. And like you're going to have evidence that you did this. And then there's going to be social proof, which is like there should be like a website or something. Like if I tell you I ran the Making Midwest Marathon and you Google it and there's nothing there, that's going to be like, I don't know, I don't buy your story. And then photographic proof. There's going to be a picture of you like, looking like this and your little race bib. That's what it's called. And I realized that none of those things require any running. And so I thought, what if we did a fake marathon for all the people who want to be able to say that they've done it and not actually do it. And so we put together this event. It was called Run Free, because it was free of running. And it was the greatest race that never was. And we thought, here's how it works. You pay us money, that's important. And then we're gonna send you all the stuff that you would get from a regular marathon. A medal, a race bib with your name on it, a T-shirt, all that stuff. And then that's the physical proof. The social proof, we're gonna have a website, and you're gonna get a race time on there. And it's gonna be a good one, because I found an Excel document somewhere in the dark web of New York marathon finishing times. And I just stripped their names right off of there, and I put our names on there. And in a blatant cash grab, the more money that you gave us, the better time your time was. And then photographic proof. This is the key. All of us on the same day at the same time went outside and we took pictures of ourselves pretending to run with our bibs on, and then we hashtagged it with the thing. And there was a lot of symbolism. Like I was a designer, and so I was like, man, I want this to be good. You can buy generic medals and generic race bibs and generic and everything. It's just like cheap. I was like, no, we're going bespoke, we're going custom. We had a forge make these medals, and there's like the symbolism here. If you see there's that little runner guy, that's actually a cutout on the medal. It goes all the way through. And the symbolism is there's not actually a runner on the medal, there's just the idea of a runner. So we put this one up on Kickstarter, and we thought, okay, what do we need to make this happen? We need probably 100 people to sign up to make it convincing, and the base level, just to get like a bib and your race time on the side, was $10. So we set our goal at $1,000. We ended up hitting $23,000. And that's 592 backers, but that actually represents over 1,000 people, because we had team packs that you could buy where you would get like 10 things. And it was ridiculous. And then we got a call after the Kickstarter closed down, and this company said, hey, we want to sponsor your race. And I was like, right, it's not a real race though. And they were like, no, we love it. And so Groupon sponsored our race. And it became Groupon Presents Run Free 2013, the greatest race that never was. This is my job, you guys. Like, it's ridiculous. But the thing I'm probably best known for is a couple years ago, I'm 32 right now, and I turned 30, obviously 2 years ago. You do the math, it checks out. And instead of having a birthday party like a regular person, I had this joke idea that I took way too far, like I do with everything, and I was like, instead of doing that, I'm gonna have a Viking funeral for my 20s. And so I built a Viking ship out of cardboard, and I built these giant letters and numbers that said my 20s, and then we were gonna shoot a flaming arrow into it, but I didn't know how that worked, so we used Roman candles. And all my friends came over and we shot Roman candles at this ship, and it was amazing. That's, again, I can't stress to you enough, this is my entire career. I go around and I speak places to teenagers, and then I do all of this other side project stuff, which doesn't make me any money. Like you saw, $10,000, $23,000. We lost money on the first project because we were terrible at fulfilling stuff and knowing how many things we should order. And the second, we made a modest profit, but not nearly enough compared to the amount of time that we put in. So this is like my job, and honestly, it's working out pretty good, you guys. Like, I love my life. It's really, really fun. Here's the funny thing, is the thing that I do for my job, like the thing that I actually get paid for, going around and speaking at schools, gets no press coverage at all. Like, nobody cares about that. I have a folder in my Dropbox, and like me and my assistant can add stuff to it, and it's called press. This is the only thing that's in there. It's from like some local newspaper that they cut out. My client was like, look at this. I can assure you more people are reading this right now in this room than ever read it when it was in print. But these stupid side projects that I do, they've been covered by Fast Company, BuzzFeed, Make Magazine, Wired, Mashable, Laughing Squid, Upworthy, and Swiss Miss, who I couldn't find a good logo for, in high res. Which is weird, because she's great. And that's weird. Like, it's weird that that's my job. And it wouldn't work for almost anybody. Like, most of you are like, I couldn't, like, I'm already upset by this, or this guy is weird, or whatever. But I've managed to carve out this life for myself that's pretty cool. I like it, and it's going really well. And I'm still on this journey, and it's taken a long time to get here, but I've learned a lot about making a life that you enjoy. And so that's what I want to talk about today. The title of this talk used to be The Blues Clues Guide to Finding Your Passion. But I don't really love that word passion. That's what I realized. There's too much baggage with that word. For one thing, there's all this like monetary baggage when you talk about passion. Like, people talk about passion, finding your passion, following your passion. And they also talk about things like doing what you love. That's the same concept. And they talk about it like there's gonna be money at the end of it. And they always say like, do what you love and the money will follow, right? That is not true for most people, unless you love banking or something like that, right? Most people, the things that you love are not the things you're going to get paid for. And I think that we've built up this whole industry where we sell people like this idea that you can follow your passion and it's going to pay off, because that's how the other people make their money, is by charging you for that kind of advice. Also, passion is unsustainable. It's just, it's not sustainable. Passion is, the word itself, it's equated with things like, we talk about a crime of passion, right? It's like lust and murder and anger. Those are all passionate things. And passion is great. Like, you should have passion in your life, but you can't sustain that. You can't live on that forever. In fact, the sign of a healthy relationship is that it doesn't just exist on passion. Teenage relationships exist solely on passion, and they burn hot and fast, and they're done, and they're over with, because they don't have anything to sustain them through hard times. I've been married for 10 years. My daughter pooped on me 2 times in a day, like a week ago. Passion is like, if I was only counting on passion to sustain my marriage and my parenthood, like, I would just not go home after this. I would just hang out here. But I'm going home, I promise. And so instead of the Blues Clues Guide to Finding Your Passion, we're going to talk about finding your place in the universe. Because I realized that's what I've done. I found a place that works for me. It's weird and idiosyncratic, and it wouldn't fit most of you, but it works for me, and I really, really like it. And so I want to help you guys find your spot too. But in order to talk about that, first we have to talk about something pretty serious. This. This is a turtle, if you didn't know. That's a turtle, and this is also a turtle, okay? We'll go back to the first one in case you missed it, okay? This is a turtle. This is a turtle as well, and this is a turtle, okay? That's the turtle. I'm starting to turn this into a TED Talk, you guys, but these are all turtles, and I'm losing you, and that's part of the point, okay? Like, you saw, after like the 3rd turtle, you were like, we get it, dude, we know what a turtle is, to the point where most of you didn't even realize that the first 2 turtles were the last 2 turtles, and I just flipped them around, okay? That's how lazy I was when I put this presentation together. Those are turtles. You've seen one, you've seen them all, okay? This is a human, though. That's mine. That's mine. I made that. That's Juniper. She's my daughter. She's adorable. Okay? Human, right there. We can all agree. So is this. That's a human. I don't have permission to use this image. I don't know if that's okay. Okay? Those are both humans. They're very different. And as much as I like this one, her vertical can't compete with that. And it never will. Her genetics will not support that, okay? I'm lucky I'm not moving around. I would trip over that for sure. I'm clumsy and awkward and can't jump very high. Those are 2 humans. humans, but that's also, well, some of that's a plant. But the middle part, right there is a human, and this is a human. That one was so sick of our crap, she went into space, right? That's amazing. Those are what? Come on. What? That left one looks like a mech suit for the right one, okay? There's a hatch in his back that opens and she crawls in and controls it. Can you imagine a conversation between these two, like in clothes shopping or like anything at all, like, and that one, and like all of these people, and like, look at these people, they're all humans, and so are these. Like, these guys can talk about their silly hats, but other than that, like, all of these people have vastly different lives. And the same is going to be true even for people who all, like, meet a certain criteria. We all decided to be in this room for various reasons, right? And like, we have a lot in common, but we also have a lot that's not in common. And so we shouldn't all just take everybody's advice and go, like, we're all going to apply it exactly. That's what I loved about what Meg said yesterday, which was like, hey, if this doesn't work for you, throw it out. And if it does, great, because we're all individual, unique people. Here's another way of looking at this. This is Chad Smith. He's the drummer for the Red Hot Chili Peppers. It's a band, you probably never heard of them. Just a little indie group. Anyways, and this is Will Ferrell. He's a serious thespian actor. And yeah, so these guys look very similar, right? Like, to the point where they parodied this on television, like they've been on Jimmy Fallon and stuff like that. And it's a funny joke that they like physically resemble each other, like to the point where one of them for sure needs a paternity test. His dad was like a traveling salesman or something. There's a story here. But they should not try to imitate each other, okay? Because Chad Smith is a great drummer, and I don't think Will Ferrell could pull it off, right? But there's got to be that temptation. Like, there's got to be that temptation, maybe not in this exact situation, but we've all done that where we go, okay, I'm wired to be a funny person, but I see this rock star guy, and people love rock star guys. I think I'm going to do that. I kind of look like him. I'm going to try to pull that out. That's not going to work, right? Or sometimes we're Chad Smith, and we're like, you know what? I'm done with this road gig. I want to just be a funny guy. And my guess is that he's not wired the same way as Will Ferrell is. He's not wired to be funny. And so some of us, we just see like, well, this is who I am, but this is what I think like the world would accept, and so I'm going to try to do that. And some of us make this mistake of trying to combine those things, and we take a little bit of Chad Smith and a little bit of Will Ferrell, and we end up with Will Smith. And that's a totally different thing, you guys. I don't even know if that metaphor works. I just really wanted to make that joke on stage. So, Blue's Clues. We're talking about the Blue's Clues Guide to Finding Your Passion. And see, there are a lot of myths around finding your passion, finding your place in the universe, finding where you fit in. First, there's this myth that you won't be happy until you find your place in the universe, and that is bullcrap that's designed to sell you something. Because you can be happy wherever. Guys, I hate to tell you this, but we have it pretty good. Like, we demonstrably have better lives than almost anyone who has ever lived on the face of the earth. We don't have to worry about things like clean water or like where our next meal is going to come from. Like, our struggles are so much easier than most people's struggles have ever been. And like, if those people could be happy in the middle of the Civil War when their feet were frozen, like, we can find a way to be happy even if we don't find our exact spot, like where we're supposed to be, right? Happiness is something that you can create. Now, listen, depression, mental health, those are all different things, and those are serious things, and some of us have a harder time than others. But the truth is that happiness is not something that you have to wait until it comes to you. It's something that you can seek out. And the second myth is that finding your place in the universe is this easy and obvious thing, right? Like, we talk about this. That's why I hate the phrase follow your passion, because so many people I meet, they go, I would if I knew what it was. I don't know where it went or what it is at the beginning. I don't know what I'm looking for. And we act like knowing what your passion is just this thing that everyone would just know right away. And that's not always true. In my experience, finding your passion and finding your place in the universe is more akin to following a trail of breadcrumbs. They're small and they're hard to see if you're not looking for them, and none of them individually is large enough to sustain you, but together they amount to something. It's more like solving a mystery, which brings me back to this, Blue's Clues. For those of you who aren't familiar, Blue's Clues was a 30-minute children's television show that ran for a little over 6 seasons on Nickelodeon starting in 1996. That's from Wikipedia. If it's wrong, I don't know. The main characters on the show were a guy named Steve, who was played by a guy named Steve, and a dog named Blue, who is not played by anyone because it's an animated character. Format for the show was this. At the beginning of each episode, Steve would ask Blue a question, and Blue would communicate, non-verbally, with like noises and actions and things like that Blue wanted to play a game called Blue's Clues. Now here's how the game, Blue's Clues, works. Blue would leave a blue paw print on something. This is never explained, It's never explained why a blue dog does not automatically leave a blue paw print. That's not how this stuff works, you guys. There's not like a residue that just comes out of dogs. If it was, you would get rid of that dog right away. Anyways, so it leaves this paw print, and that is a sign that this is a clue. And Steve, as he's going through his day, he finds these clues, and then there's always 3, and every time he writes down his clue in his handy dandy notebook. Thank you. This is an interactive presentation. I just announced that. And so he'll write them down, and then at the end of the show, he will collect all 3 clues to decipher what Blue was trying to communicate. Now, that's the show. Interesting side note, there was a spin-off show after the end of the 6th season that was called Blue's Room. And in that show, we discover that Blue could talk the whole time, which makes this entire game less fun and more like manipulative, you know? Like, just answer the question, Blue. So, sorry, I just want to get that off my chest. So, this is the show. And some of you are like, great, awesome, thanks for explaining to me a show that I had already was very familiar with. What does this have to do with finding your place in the universe? And I would say everything. It has everything to do with finding your place in the universe, because in my opinion, finding your place in the universe, finding your comfort zone, finding the life that works for you is so much less like being struck by lightning, and it's so much more like scrambling around and trying to solve this mystery that a dog is not helping you with. So, let's get started. The first thing that Steve does is to grab his handy dandy once again. Actually, that's not true. The first thing that he does is sings a song which goes, "We are gonna play Blue's Clues, because it's a really great game." So then he grabs his notebook. And he grabs it from a character named Side Table Drawer, who is, as you would have suspected, a side table drawer. All the characters in this show are very literally named. There's a dog named Blue, there's another dog named Magenta that is Magenta, and there's Mr. Salt and Mrs. Pepper. It's funny that we're talking about this at a creativity conference because they use 0 creativity when they named any of these characters. So anyways, he grabs his notebook from Side Table Drawer. That's our first point. If you're going to find your place in the universe, you're going to need a notebook. Notebooks are essential because humans are terrible rememberers. I'm actually an above average rememberer. Like, I'm the guy that like always knows quotes from stuff and is always bringing up, like Andy and I took a walk this morning to go to breakfast, and I named like 4 comedy specials, and I would be like, oh yeah, this guy said this, or oh, there's a deep thought by Jack Handy that corresponds. I'm that annoying guy. I remember the Animaniacs song with all the countries of the world. I memorized it in 3rd grade. I could sing it now if I had time, which I don't, but find me in the hall, we'll make it happen. And so you might go, okay, Kyle, those are all, very humble, braggy ways of telling us that you are not a not good rememberer. But here's the thing, while I can remember all that stuff, I can't tell you what time my plane leaves tomorrow. No idea. I can't tell you, like, why I'm at the grocery store. What was I supposed to get when I came here? I've been here for 45 minutes. Like, what? That's why I need a notebook. I am a randomly good rememberer, and randomly good is not good enough if you're going to find the life that you want. And so I keep notebooks. I have a notebook right here, right now. Little field notes, the wood ones. Man, they're so good. Here's some notebooks that I've kept over the years. This is not even close to all of them. These are just the ones that I have within reach, and they made a nice grid, and so I was like, all right, that'll be good enough. And as you can see, I've used a bunch of different kinds. There's moleskins, there's field notes, there's a handmade leather thing I did in college back there. There's just crappy spiral-bound notebooks. And in these notebooks, I write anything down that I think is worth writing down. That's the great thing about paper. It's cheap. Don't be sacred about it. Write down anything that you think strikes your fancy. It's like, this is a thing that's interesting to me. To prove that I'm a bad rememberer, here are some slides of some pictures that I found in these notebooks that I had totally forgotten about. First of all, notice on the left here it says jive turkey. I don't know what that means. This is just a document with some types of glasses: red wine glass, white wine glass, hourglass, Ira glass, Google glass, spy glass, shot glass, and shards of glass. Those are dangerous. And then the observation that it got cut off is the only drinks that require special glasses are alcoholic, which is dumb. Like, no one's, that just means to me that you're preying on people. No one's like, to really experience a 7-Up, you have to let the nose, open or whatever. So that's something. This is 1, 2, 3, 4. I don't know what that's about. This is an idea I had for a thing called the blues rock chair. It's a rocking chair that just plays a blues chord progression as you rock, and it plays to the tune of your rocking. So it's just like bum 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 bum, and then you say sad stuff, and it's just a blues song. This is a website idea I had called don'tnameyourkidthat.com, and it's like a reverse baby name book where you tell me what you're going to name your kid or what you're thinking about, and then I tell you how a child is going to make fun of that when your kid is like 12. I feel like people need this service because people are naming their kids ridiculous things. I didn't do that though, it would be mean. I guess that's some twins that are joined at the mustache. I don't know what that is. This is just an observation. What if all the helium from the balloons that we are releasing is slowly increasing the pitch of our collective voices as it enters the atmosphere? Think about it, it's scary. This says, you too can make money online by teaching people how to make money online. I just see a lot of that crap. This is a logo I designed for a thing called the Foundation for the Advancement of Ridiculous Things, or FART for short. And FART was this idea I had that is kind of like what this talk is. It's just to encourage people to pursue things that might not seem like they have any practical application. I think so many times people have an idea and the first thing is can I make money from this? Will this help my career? And my question is does this seem like it would be a fun thing to do? And if so, and if it's not going to torpedo my career or my family or my marriage or any of those things, then you should do it. And people always ask me Kyle, I was having a conversation yesterday with someone, they said, I love your Viking ship, I love this other thing, why do you do this stuff? And the answer is because I'm going to die someday, and it's going to be a lot harder to pull that off from the grave. Speaking of which, this is the last notebook page I have. This is the guy from the Punisher logo while he was still alive. For those of you who don't know, this is the Punisher logo, and it's supposed to be scary. You see a lot of angsty teenagers with a black hoodie with a Punisher logo on it, and I just always think that guy looked like an idiot when he was alive, okay? He had just gigantic teeth, and that's probably why he died. He couldn't eat anything. And they're not even fangs, they're just regular teeth anyways. So, notebooks, okay, so Steve grabs his notebook, then what? He starts looking for clues, right? Wrong. He sings another stupid song that explains how the whole system works. He goes, we gotta find a, and then he's 4 words in and he already forgot how it works, and the audience goes, paw print! And he goes, right, because that's the first, and then he forgets again, and they're like, clue! And then he's like, yeah, and then we put it in our notebook because the who's clues. I'm gonna need more audience participation than that, okay? And then he goes, we find another paw print, that's our second clue. We put it in our notebook because of who's clues. All right, getting better. When we find the last paw print, that's our third clue. Put it in our notebook because of who's clues. And then you know what to do. We gotta sit down in our thinking chair and think. Because if we use our minds and take a step at a time, we can do anything that we want to do. So that's a system, that's the pattern. Find a clue, write it down. Find a clue, write it down. Find another clue, write it down. Sit down in your thinking chair, think about all those things together, and you solve the puzzle. And this is the thinking chair, by the way, and those are the clues floating above his head. So then the question is, for us, what do clues look like? Because that's the exact same pattern that you and I need to follow, is we need to carry this notebook around and we need to look for clues of what the universe is trying to tell us about where our spot is. And now in the show, clues are anything that has a big paw print on it. Easy, right? Yeah, pretty easy. But in finding your passion, there's a sort of paw print too. It's just not something that you see. It's something that you feel. Now for me, the first time that I ever noticed this was watching this documentary. It's called Beauty is Embarrassing. It's phenomenal. You should just leave and watch it now if you haven't. I will not even be upset. Just go out, download it on iTunes. It used to be on Netflix. It was a crime that it was taken down. But this documentary is about this gentleman. His name is Wayne White. Wayne White is one of the most creative and prolific just dudes of all time. He did the puppets and stuff on Pee-wee's Playhouse. He did the set design and animation on Beakman's World. He is just a force in the children's television world for a long time. And then he quit doing that and decided to start painting. And he would do these thrift store paintings where he gets thrift store landscapes that are just boring landscapes and he paints these words into them. And so this one says, I'm having a dialogue with the universe and you're just sitting there. This one says, oh, they're just mad because I'm a mystical truth teller. And this one says, good-looking people having fun without you, which Wayne asserts, and I would agree, that that's the basis of all advertising, is good-looking people having fun without you. So I watched this show, I watched this documentary, I just stumbled onto it organically, nobody recommended it to me, I just saw that picture, this cover, and I was like, oh, that looks interesting, I'll click on this, and I was mesmerized. I watched it once, I watched it the next night again, I made my wife watch it after that, and then it became this thing where I'd be like, babe, let's watch that movie again, and she was like, you've seen that movie 100 times, and I was like, right, but let's do it, and then she wouldn't, and then we'd watch something else, she would go to bed, I would stay up and watch that documentary. I could quote this entire movie all the way through. I just love this movie. and it just made me feel something. And at first I couldn't put my finger on it. When I watched the documentary, I was like, I had this feeling I can't put my finger on what it is. And eventually I realized what it was. It made me want to make something. It wasn't even that I had this like specific expression of like, I should make this thing. It was just like, I need to create something. Some of you are nodding, some of you have that same feeling. Others have a different sign. And maybe for you, it's something different. For me, the sign of a clue is when I read a book or watch a movie or hear a talk or listen to a song or a podcast and I immediately want to go create something, that is a sign. And I always make sure to take note of that and I write those things down. For you, it might be a different feeling. Maybe it's something that just makes you incredibly happy, or maybe it's something that makes you want to cry. Whatever those things are for you, when you feel like, man, this feeling is something that comes up a lot in these meaningful moments, write that stuff down. Put that in your notebook, because that's a sign of something called your resonant frequency. Now, I don't know if this has anything to do with resonant frequency, but I Googled it and this came up and it looks pretty sciencey, so I just went with it. So here's what a resonant frequency is. When I was in college, I took this physics class. And I am a fidgety person, and so I would sit there and bounce my leg. Here, you can't see, this is what bouncing your leg looks like. I would just sit there and bounce my leg underneath the desk. Now I wouldn't like tap it, or I wasn't making noise, I was just moving. And I realized, I don't know if it was the crappy construction of the building, or if it was just like something else, but if I did it at the right like pattern, it would shake the walls. And not like noticeably, the only reason you noticed it was because the projector screen would start to vibrate. And of course, we're trying to have a class in here, we're teaching people, it's irresponsible to do that. So what I did was, I continued to do it. And if I continued to do it, it wouldn't just shake, it would just like build up, and it was like, ah, like this possessed poltergeist of a projector screen, and everyone's laughing, and I'm stoked because I got the attention I was wanting. And the teacher, who was he looked like Kid from Napoleon Dynamite. He was this like nerdy kind of mousy looking fellow, and he just turned around and he goes, oh, someone has found the resonant frequency of the room. And then he just turned around and went back to what he was doing. And I was like, what? You can't just say that and not explain what that is. And so I asked him, and he said, well, everything, and I'm probably butchering what this actually is. If you're a scientist, you're already gone out of this talk anyway. So, but what he said was that everything has a resonant frequency. And what happens is when sound hits an object, it vibrates that object. And you've felt that before. If you're at a concert, you stand next to the bass and you're like, boom, this probably is not good for my heart, right? Or if you've ever blown up a mailbox, not saying I have, not saying I haven't, but maybe you stood too close to it, and maybe you felt the shock wave when that happened. And that is vibrations going through your body. Now, normally that stuff just vibrates out. But if you hit the right frequency, something dangerous happens, and it's where the vibrations, they start to echo back, and they build on, they're hitting at the exact same frequency that the sound is still coming in at. And what happens is, you get something like this, where the amplitude of the wave, if that's the thing, I don't know, whatever, it gets taller, okay? And it keeps getting more intense. That's how opera singers can break a glass. They sing at the right frequency, and it shakes itself apart. Here's another way of explaining it. You've always been on a swing set before, and there's a frequency at which you pump your legs and you pump your arms, and it doesn't really take very much energy at all. You just hit it at the exact right time, and all of a sudden you're swinging higher and higher and higher. You're putting in very little energy, but you're doing it at exactly the right time. And if you do it a second before or a second after, it will shake the whole thing loose and the swing won't work anymore. So you have to ask yourself, what is my resonant frequency? What is your resonant frequency? What's the feeling that makes you come alive? What's that thing that just sends tingles down your spine? And again, I just can't reiterate enough, it doesn't matter at all. I couldn't care less if it has any tie to a way that could ever make you money, because the universe doesn't care, right? I want you to be happy. I would much rather you be happy than rich, and those things are very oftentimes diametrically opposed. So if it is something you can make money with, great. If not, don't care. Cross that bridge later. For me, again, it's when I feel compelled to create. My resonant frequency is creation. Whenever I see something and I'm like, I just need to make something. Sometimes that has an object. Sometimes I'm like, I need to make this thing. And sometimes it's just like, I need to make something. And I'll pull out my notebook and I'll doodle, or I'll get some cardboard out and start cutting stuff up. Whatever it is. But for you, it could be different. Maybe it's connection. Maybe for you, your resonant frequency is when you are just like, man, I want to connect with other people around me. Like, I just feel connected to the universe. I feel connected to my friends and my neighbors, and I want to express that in some way. Or maybe it's collaboration. Maybe it's, I don't want to just be connected. I don't want to just talk to people. I want to make something with someone else. I want to cross-pollinate my skills and your skills. Whatever your resonant frequency is, write it down, underline it, put a star next to it, look at it in the morning, at night. Remember, that's what you're supposed to be looking for. You're like a hound dog, you got to get that scent, okay? Now here's an important note. That's why I wrote important note up here, okay? Your resonant frequency is not your passion. It's not your place in the universe. It's too broad for that. It's just your paw print. It's just a thing that shows you this is a clue and you should pay attention to it. My resonant frequency is creation, but like it's too broad to tell me what to create. I could create a spreadsheet, that's not gonna do it for me. So I gotta figure out what am I supposed to create? Where am I supposed to do that? But this is enough to get me onto the scent. So Steve finds this clue. What do we do? Once we got the scent, we found our first clue. What does Steve do? He looks for the second clue, right? And then he finds it, and he finds a third clue, and then bam, bam, boom, he's done. No, that's not what happens. Steve doesn't do anything like that. In fact, frequently after the first clue, he abandons the search for clues altogether. He forgets what he's doing. He gets distracted. He is just, he abandons it. Here's the thing that you have to know about Steve. Steve is an idiot, you guys. I hate to say it, but Steve has the mental capacity of a goldfish. If Steve was like any of the people in this room, the show would be 2.5 minutes long, because he'd be like, that's a clue, that's a clue, that's a clue, it's obviously this, because that's how easy the clues are in the show. But Steve is an idiot. Here's some proof that Steve is an idiot, okay? Steve often spends 15 to 20 seconds looking for something that is obviously right behind him. And there is an audience on the show that is yelling at him, behind you, and he's like, what? Huh? He just is so oblivious to what's happening. Steve frequently forgets a thing that he just told you. He's like holding a card with a recipe on it, and he's like, how many cups of flour? And it's like, you just said that 10 seconds ago. Steve, come on, get it together. Steve forgets that he's playing the game during the game. Like one clue in, he just explained to you how the game works. Steve often forgets how the game even works, and the audience has to remind him. There were 6 seasons of this show. Like, how is that happening? So, Steve is an idiot, but here's the thing. I'm an idiot too, okay? And so are you. I don't know you, but I assume, because we're all idiots in some way, because I just see us all do this. We get that thing, we get our resonant frequency, and we find a clue, and we're like, this is amazing! And then we're like, what is this? And we just get distracted. And that's what Steve does. Steve will he might, maybe the mail comes and he has to sing about mail time. Maybe the felt friend's asking for help making a macaroni picture frame. Maybe Mr. Salt and Mrs. Pepper have a marital spat, and he has to kind of, help counsel them through that. He forgets what he's supposed to be doing. He gets distracted, and for me, that happened too. After I watched this Wayne White documentary, I watched it a bunch of times, and finally I was like, I want to make something. And I just because this is a mask, obviously, of Lyndon Johnson for some reason, and this documentary has nothing to do with Lyndon Johnson. He was like, I don't know, how about Lyndon Johnson? And he makes a mask, and that became the cover of the film. And so that part of the film is only a small part of it where he's making this mask, but for whatever reason I was like, I'll make a mask, that seems cool. And I realized quickly how bad I was at it. Are you guys ready for this? This is the first mask Oh man, I know that looks like my hair, that's my wife's hair. We have the same barber. So I made it out of tape and cardboard because I didn't know what I was doing, and then it had all these tape pieces all over it, so I taped over the entire thing. I thought that would smooth it out. Clearly that was not the case. I call that technique taper-maché. I patented it. You can use it if you want. Then I painted it, and it looked like Mike from Breaking Bad, and then my son This mask is garbage, you guys. It's so bad. But I got that. I was like, I should just make masks all the time. I stopped looking for any other clues, and they progressed, okay? But not in the way that I wanted. So my son said, would you make me a mask from Power Rangers? So I made him this Megazord mask. Also, we did real paper-maché on this, and I didn't realize that I was like, we have flour, right? My wife's like, yeah. And it was like a whole wheat flour, and so it had like sharp pieces of whatever healthy people eat in there. And it was like when my son would put it on, it was like sanding his face. It was bad. So I made that one, then I made this. I don't know if it's like an Elvis Muppet mask or something. Then I made this, and this one, you can't really see because it's dark, but I was kneeling down. It was because it was so big, if I stood up, it would hit the fan. So they're progressing, right? But they're just progressing in size. They're not progressing in quality. I was just going for quantity at that point. And so that often happens to us. We're like, this is what I should do, and you start doing it, and the universe is like, nah, yeah, it's not, right? And you don't know what to do. And I was like that. I lost the scent. I was not doing a good job of following the clue that I had, but the universe responded anyways. 4 months after I made that first mask, I was flying to New York for an event. I was supposed to speak in New York, and then fly the next day to Pennsylvania, and then speak and fly home. I got halfway to New York, I was in Chicago here, and the client called and said, we have to cancel the event, there's a blizzard. And I was like, all right, cool. So then I didn't say all right, cool, I was like, that's a bummer. And then I said, okay, I gotta figure out, do I fly home and then fly to Pennsylvania another, in a day? Or do I just go to Pennsylvania? And I called my wife and she was like, just go to Pennsylvania. By the time that you get home, you're gonna be home for like 10 minutes and you might not even make it, and there's all these storms. And so I said, cool. So I flew out to Pennsylvania, I get on the plane, I'm sitting there, and I'm just checking Instagram on my phone after the door was closed. I'm sorry, you guys, I do it every time. And so I was sitting there, and the planes have not crashed so far for me keeping my phone out of airplane mode. And I'm sitting there, and I see this picture from Wayne White, the guy from the documentary. And he's doing an installation in Pennsylvania. Yes. Yeah, you got it. And in Pennsylvania. And I was like, this is incredible. Now, it wasn't open to the public yet because he was still building it, but I was like, we can cross that bridge when we come to it. So I fly to Pennsylvania, and by the time the plane lands, I already have a plan. I'm gonna go down there, I'm gonna sneak into this art gallery, I'm gonna meet Wayne White, and we're gonna become best friends. That's like, the last part I was like, who knows what will happen, but I just believed it. My resonant frequency is like shaking the plane to pieces at this point. We land, I'm on the ground, I'm like, this is incredible. I call my assistant, I was like, hey, I'm not in New York, I'm in Pennsylvania, here's what happened. And she's like, got it. She's super sharp, she's like, you need a hotel room. I'll call the hotel, tell them you're coming tonight early. And I was like, well, Lisa, hold on. Actually, I need a hotel in York, Pennsylvania. And she's like, that's 40 minutes away from you. Why do you need to go there? And I was like, it's best if you don't know that you have plausible deniability, all right? So she books me a hotel. I drive to York, Pennsylvania. By the time I get there, it's 5 o'clock. The gallery is closed. Like, the lights are off, the doors are closed. But I've never let that stop me before. And so I just, like, partially out of frustration and partially out of hope, I just grabbed the doors and like pulled, and the doors opened, right? That's like a sign, you guys. That's a little tip for you. Sometimes the door just looks like it's closed, but it's not really. That's a metaphor, but also for real. Just try the door. It might be open. So I opened, and then I'm like, okay, this is an art gallery, there's expensive things. I clearly should not be here right now. And so I did the reasonable thing, and I went inside, and I just started flipping lights on, and I'm walking around in this gallery, and I'm like in the basement at one point. I'm like just trying to find, my thought was, okay, I'll just try to find at least, he's gone for the day, but I'll just try to find the stuff that he's making. I'll go look at it. And I eventually end up on the second floor, and I'm in this staircase that goes all the way up, and I hear a voice above me. It was God. No, it wasn't God. It was, I recognized it though, because I watched the documentary so many times, I was like, that's his wife. And does that make me weird? I don't know. His wife, her name's Mimi Pond, she's an amazing, talented artist herself, and I was like, that's his wife, that means he's probably still here. And I keep going up the staircase, she was on the phone, I didn't bother her, and then I walk into this room. And that's Wayne right there, this guy, this gentleman. And I walked in over here, and I'm standing in this doorway, and this assistant lady, or like the art gallery curator, I don't know what she did, tall, skinny, pencil skirt, like eyeglasses, very official, walking over, all the types of people I have not done well with my whole life. That's usually I'm gonna get kicked out of someplace. And she said, can I help you, sir? And I was like, I had this whole thing, like this beautiful thing I was gonna say, and my brain was like, we're not doing that. I was like, and she was like, are you here to help? And I was like, yes. And so she's like, cool. So she's like, do you want to meet Wayne? I was like, yeah. So we walk over, and she's like, hey, this is Kyle, and he's here to help. And I was like, I didn't know anything about how installation art worked. I didn't know that there were like crews of volunteers. I didn't know any of that. I was like, I will sweep the garbage up tomorrow. Like, anything I can do to help. I loved your movie. And then Wayne White said this thing. What was my resonant frequency? It was creation, right? It was making stuff. And Wayne says to me, he goes, do you like making stuff? And I was like, whoa. He said that. But also the universe said that. And I was like, I love making stuff. And he goes, you're hired, which meant a volunteer. And then I came back the next day, I was the first person there, I was the last person to leave. Through different parts of the day, there would be like 15 or 20 volunteers, and I was like, I'm gonna outlast all of these suckers until it's just me and him. And that's exactly how that went down. And so at the end of the day, it ends up being just me and Wayne. We're making all this cardboard stuff, and he just starts asking me about my life. And he's like, what do you do? And he goes, Kyle, I can tell that you've done this before. This isn't your first time messing around with cardboard, which you've seen the quality of my work. It basically was. But something in him saw like I should encourage this poor child, and I showed him some of my masks. This was a bad idea. You shouldn't do that. But he was very encouraging and kind. He's like seriously one of the nicest guys in the universe. And he was like, yeah, that's cool. He's like, you're doing paper mache though. You're burying all the detail. You should do hot glue. And he's showing me all these different things. And then at the end of the day, I was like, I have this note card, and I was like, will you write something on here? And I was just like, will you sign it? Because I'm a weirdo. And he wrote, Kyle, you are an expert cardboarder. Thank you, Wayne. That is framed in my studio now. I see that all the time. And whenever I stop believing in myself, I'm like, Wayne White believed in me at one time. And something happened with that clue. Wayne White was a clue, cardboard was a clue, and those things started working together. I picked up so much stuff in that one day that I was working with him. This is the last mask I made right before that. This is the thing I made when I got home. That's my daughter Lucy. She wanted a little castle shaped like an L for her wall. That's Wesley. He wanted a W with some like sword fighting severed arms or something, I don't know. I started making stuff all the time out of cardboard. I made this. My son, I would travel, and he was like, I'm worried the bad guys are going to get him while you're gone, so I made him This Is a Bad Guy Trap. And he would haul it out every night out of the closet and set it down. And then one time he was like trying to throw some stuff onto it and to see if it would set it off. And I was like, oh no. And he goes, Dad, it's not working. He's like, it's not working. I was like, no, my whole system of securing his feelings when he's gone, it's not going to work. And then I just thought really quick, and I was like, oh, well son, it's set so it only works on bad guys. And he was like, Dad, you are so smart. And so I made that. I made this stupid mask one time. My friends were having a house show, and I wore it out front. I can see through the front door. I was like, am I doing this right? Is this what you wear to a house show? I made this Abraham Lincoln mask. This is one of those ideas that, like, sometimes I have an idea, like, I want to make something, I'll think about it for a while, like the house mask. I just started building a mask, and then it kind of turned into a house over time. This one was one, my friends called me, these are penny farthings, the big wheel bicycles. There's a group of us that ride them around in town. It's a real hipster thing to do. And my friend called me on July 2nd and was like, hey, there's a 4th of July parade, do you want to ride in it with all the penny farthing guys? And I was like, yeah, that sounds awesome. That night, I woke up at 2 o'clock in the morning, I was like, I have to make an Abraham Lincoln mask. And so I spent the entire next day making this Abraham Lincoln mask. It's very difficult to mount a penny farthing without that mask on, more so with the mask on, but I rode in this parade, and at first I was like being real safe, and I'm gonna stay in the middle of the road and do these circles and stuff. Then I just started getting confident and cocky because these kids were loving it. They were like, it's Abraham Lincoln! So I was handing out presidential high fives and stuff all over the place. Now here's what you need to know. The seat right here is about right here, like in real life, which means that my eyes are looking out through his mouth. If I reach my hand all the way up, I could touch the brim of the hat, just barely. So that top of that mask is probably between 10 and 12 feet off the ground, which also, incidentally, was the height of a branch that I did not see. And I'm pedaling around, and then boom, I just get clotheslined by this branch. I fall off the bike, my knee is bleeding, the bike is crumpled, the beard of the mask is like twisted around, and so I'm like, I gotta take this mask off to see if my knee is gonna fall off. And I took the mask off, and this guy in the crowd goes, hey, that's not the real Abraham Lincoln! And everybody starts laughing, and I was like, all right, that's fair, that's pretty good. But the things kept getting bigger. This is an installation I did for my friends. They had this craft show called the Queen City Craft Show, and they're like, would you just make some little cardboard thing? This is a one-day show that's like 8 hours or something, and I was like, yeah, I'll just make something little, and then I made this giant thing that had lights and motors, and it spun around. I also don't know what an astronaut actually has on his chest, so I just put a boombox on there. That tape deck opened up, and there was a tape that's this big that says Space Jam soundtrack. Because what else are you going to listen to? This is a submarine I made for this kids camp thing. That's 100% cardboard and hot glue and string and plastic bowls from the dollar store. But kids could go in there and like take their pictures and stuff. What happened was I met Wayne, and all of a sudden like something unlocked inside of me. And cardboard was this thing I'd never really considered before. As a medium, I never really used it. I just always thought of that as like, just throw that stuff in the trash. You can't really do anything with it. I didn't go to like art school. I didn't know any of that stuff. But people use this. And then I met him, I saw this, and I was like, wow, it unlocked all this stuff in my head to the point where there are ideas that I had before that I was like, I don't have a way of making this thing. It's going to be too expensive, or it's going to be too whatever. Like I never could have built any of this stuff without cardboard. And there were ideas that were unlocked solely by that. Like this one, I bought this tandem bicycle, and it's a 2-seat bicycle, right? The very first thought I had was, what if I cut the back seat off of it and built a horse's butt back there, so that when you're sitting on the bike riding, it looks like a centaur is riding the bicycle. And it's a pretty common idea, I know. And so I never could do it, and then cardboard unlocked this for me, and this was my Halloween costume all year. Cardboard was a clue, Wayne was a clue, and those two connected, but sometimes your clues are totally different. And there have been clues for me that were conversations or interviews or podcasts or pieces of art, these different things, and they make things possible that were never possible for me before. And every time I would find these things, I would write them down, and I would sit down in my thinking chair and think about how do all these things connect. Now, there's two different ways to collect clues. The first way is passively. This is how Steve does it on the show. Steve goes around and he's like looking for clues, and then the kids yell at him, and he finds the clue. He doesn't actually spend most of the time looking for clues, though. He's checking the mail and baking a cake and jumping through a picture frame into a magical world, and then along the way all these things happen. And that's how it can happen for you too. You're just going through your life, you're just living your life, and then you see something, you're like, wow, that's incredible. That's the passive way of happening. And a lot of times, like Steve, we have to have other people point out to us, dude, that's a clue for you, that's a thing for you. Like, sometimes we don't even notice it. A few years ago, a buddy of mine, he was like, I've got this idea for this kids online internet program. It's called the Wild Explorers Club, and it's for little kids who want to learn about nature, and it's like Boy Scouts and Girl Scouts, but for kids who are anywhere, and it's all online and stuff. And I was like, that sounds awesome. How can I be a part of it? He's like, I want you to build a set for there's like a show, and I want you to build a set for it. And I was like, dude, I'll do it. And he's like, I want it all out of cardboard. I want a log cabin. So I built this set out of cardboard. It's 8 feet tall, 8 feet deep, 8 feet wide. That's all life size, and it's all completely out of cardboard and hot glue and Sharpie and paint. And then he said, I want you to also host the show. And I was like, no, I don't want to do that. And he was like, really? And I go, yeah, dude, I'm not like a kids show guy. I don't really love that stuff. You guys are laughing and you've known me for 10 seconds, but I was serious. And he was like, that seems really weird. And I was like, why? And he goes, Kyle, everything that you love is kids show stuff. And I was like, no, it's not. And he goes, Wayne White, Jim Henson, like the Yo Gabba Gabba, like all of these different things, even like C.S. Lewis, kids' books, like all of these different things, he's pointing all this stuff out. Chronicles of Narnia, Harry Potter, Mr. Rogers, and I'm not joking, you guys, in saying that none of that had ever occurred to me. I had never connected those dots. Somebody else had to connect those dots for me. And you know what? I ended up doing that show. I did 100 episodes of that show over the course of a year, where I just sit down, and they're like very short videos, where I just go like, hey, here's your assignment for the week, and I tell them some fact, and I do some really crappy animation because I don't know what I'm doing, and it all works together. And now there are over 1,000 kids all over the world who log in every week and see my stupid face in this stupid cabin, and they write us letters, and they just talk about how much this program means to them. And moreover, from a purely financial standpoint, this covers my mortgage every month from something I did like years ago. This is something I totally would have missed out on if I hadn't been listening to other people around me who also knew me better than I knew myself. So you can collect clues passively. You can also collect clues actively. Now, he doesn't ever do this on the show. Steve doesn't do this, but you can do it in your life. And the active way is to dig through your past and look for the clues that you missed the whole time, right? I could have done that eventually and put that together, but Ben pointed it out to me. If he hadn't, I could have eventually looked back and said, oh, I like this, I like this, I like this. What are the common denominators between all these things? So here's some questions to ask yourself as you go back through and you're digging clues up actively. What do other people ask me about? Sometimes we don't realize why these questions keep coming up to us, and we just think, oh, everybody gets questions about this thing. And no, it's because people see you or they know of you and they go, you seem like a person who would know about X. What are people asking you about? That's a great sign of a clue. What movies or documentaries do I watch? That says do I watch. Oh my gosh, you guys, I'm embarrassed. Do I watch over and over again? We were talking about TV shows last night at the after party, and this person kept asking me, do you watch this show, do you watch this show? And I was like, I don't really watch TV shows at all, and my excuse is that I don't have time, but I will watch, my wife will be like, let's watch this show, and I'm like, dude, I don't have time for that. And she's like, you watched Beauty's Embarrassing 1,000 times. You watch this documentary 6 times in a week. And I realized, yeah, that's true. I would rather watch a thing and just dig deep with that, as opposed to watching some TV show that I don't care about. So what are those things for you? What movies, TV shows, documentaries do you watch over and over again? What are your go-to podcasts and which episodes? For me, there are certain podcasts, I travel all the time, and so I always there will be times when I'm just driving or flying and just need something to do. So I have a ton of podcasts on my phone, but I also can tell you, like last night, somebody was asking me, what podcast should I listen to? And I was scrolling through and I skipped a lot of the ones that are on my phone because I know what my go-to ones are. I know that there's certain podcasts that there might be 10 new episodes of another show, but if there's one new episode of this show, I'm going to skip that to the front of the queue. What are those things things for you. For me, one of those was create a pep talk. And I'm not just saying that because Andy's sitting right here. Andy Miller, ladies and gentlemen, let's give him a round of applause. Andy Miller is my spirit animal. And Andy and I, how we met was a friend of mine posted Andy said, hey, post, we're trying to get new listeners. This was like a couple years ago. He said, post like a link to this on your Facebook if you've learned anything from this. And somehow Facebook used to do this thing, and maybe it still does, where sometimes it strips all of your commentary off of a link and it just posts like the icon of that thing. And that's all I saw. There wasn't even like, this is a podcast I like. It was just the Creative Pep Talk artwork. And I was like, this looks interesting. I clicked on it, I listened to like 2 episodes, and I was like, this guy gets it. He's like my person. And then I was like, I looked on his website, he had these like calls where you could pay him money and he would like talk to you for an hour, and I was like, I'm gonna call him and I'm gonna make him be my best friend. And that's exactly how that went down. I've been staying at his house for 2 days. And so Andy and I, we connected because we are like the same person who came at our journeys from opposite angles. Andy is like an artist, a creative, who is now getting into the speaking world, and I was a speaking guy who was starting to get into creative stuff. And we were able to like swap maps and go, hey, this is what you're gonna see when you crest over here. And when you go into this is what to watch out for. What are those things for you? Which podcasts and which episodes? There are specific episodes that you don't delete from your phone and you go back to them again and again and again. Andy's interview with Ghost Shrimp is like that for me. It's one of the weirdest things I've ever heard in my life. And I listened to it 4 times in a row. And those are the things that should be assigned to you. What is different about you than other people? Sometimes we underestimate things just because they come naturally to us. I get this all the time. Students will come up to me and go, Kyle, I want to be a public speaker, but I deal with really bad stage fright. How do you get over that? And I'm like, I don't know what that is. I was always the kid that they were like, get off the stage, Kyle. Like now, I'm running out of time. I'm definitely going over, just heads up. So that, sorry, Matt. And whatever makes you unique, those things that you tend to write those things off, don't write them off. Dig deep, because I have now started to examine, well, what is it about, well, how do I think differently about stage fright than other people? And I've been able to help a lot of people see things the way that I see them, and that has helped them. So what are those things for you? Who are the people that inspire you? What do they have in common? For me, it's people like Wayne White, Aaron Draplin, Tina Roth Eisenberg, Jim Henson, Max Temkin, Nate Lewis, Austin Kleon, who's in the back of the room, Dominic Wilcox, Oliver Jeffers, Andy Miller, Daniel Evans, Brad Montague. Like these people that I, for whatever reason, you just see people and you're like, I like that person. I click with them. The stuff that they put out seems authentic to me. And it might not. There might be other people who are like, I don't get that person, I don't get their work, whatever. That should be assigned to you. Who are the companies that inspire you? What do they have in common? Even if it's stuff that, like, there are companies that I never buy any of their stuff, but I just love their voice. I love the way that they do stuff. And there's something about that you can pay attention to. And then what are the things that make you bristle? Like, what do you just have zero tolerance for at all? That should be assigned too. There's certain things that really annoy me, and my wife is like, why does that annoy you so much? And I realize, like, that's a clue. That's part of how I'm wired. What are the things that just make you go nuts? And for me, it's going through your life and acting like you don't have control over it, and acting like just whatever the default setting is, that's what you should do. Whenever you go to Starbucks and you order a drink, they ask you a question at the end of your order. What is the question? What's your name? That's what everybody always says, but that's not actually the question they ask. What they ask is, can I get a name for the drink? Which means that you're not even obligated on a social level to tell them what your actual name is. What you're doing is establishing, when I say this, you're going to pick this drink up. It can be anything that you want. Now, some people are dumb and they're like, Starbucks is a war on Christmas. We're going to make them say Merry Christmas. They don't care about that at all. It's just a waste of their time. So I always say that my name is Thunderbolt. And they have to yell whatever you say, you guys. Like, I can't reiterate that enough. They have to yell that out. And I've noticed 2 reactions. Some baristas are real salty and they're like, and they'll just push it out to the corner and like expect you to come get it. And I will make eye contact with that person and let them know, I'm not doing it until you yell that out. And then there's other people that get really excited about it. I'll go Thunderbolt, and they're like, yes, you broke the monotony of my day for a minute. You like let in some joy. I realized that you can do that with almost anything. A year ago, a year or 2 ago maybe, I was making some new business cards, and I realized, like, I hate all of my titles. I don't like motivational speaker. I don't really even identify as an artist. I don't think I'm good enough to call myself that. And I have all these issues with titles and stuff like that, and I realized, by the time I hand someone a business card, they already know me. I'm not just giving these out to people on the street. We've had a conversation on a plane, or we met at a conference or something like that. So you can put whatever you want on there. So this is what my business card says. Kyle Scheele, grilled cheese sandwich enthusiast. That is true. And then at the bottom it says, this card redeemable for 1 grilled cheese sandwich, which you guys are thinking, that's very generous of you, Kyle, but read the fine print. It says, by me, from you. Which means that if I give you a card and you accept it, you are contractually obligated to eventually provide me with a grilled cheese sandwich. Connor, I gave you a card a year ago. You still have yet to come through on that. Don't think I've forgotten. So, you can put whatever you want on this stuff, guys, and this becomes a clue for you and for other people. When I hand people this card, I get to watch how they respond, and I can tell pretty quickly if we're gonna be good friends or not. Like, some people you hand this card and they either like roll their eyes or they don't get it, or like, this is stupid, and I'm like, that's totally fine. And that doesn't mean I'm better than you or you're better than me. It just means we're probably not gonna have a lot in common. And there's some people I hand this to, and they just like die laughing, and I'm like, that's my guy, that's my person. And also, he owes me a grilled cheese sandwich, so we're hanging out. So, I have literally gotten jobs from this, where I handed this to someone and they go, you seem like a good guy, come over and I'm gonna hire you to do stuff. It's awesome. So what do you do once you've got all your clues? You sit down in your thinking chair and think. Because if we use our minds, take a step at a time, we can do anything that we want to do, right? And so Steve always has 3 clues, and so we'll just put 3 little circles up here. But yours, you might have 5 clues, you might have 10 clues. Just know that it should be more than 1 and probably more than 2. Because if you have 1 clue, you're going to do what I do, which is just imitate that thing. You see this all the time where writers get inspired by a book and they try to write a book and they write the same book, but worse, right? And like, don't do that. So look at your things and then start asking yourself, what do these things have in common? Okay? What are the commonalities? What are the overlaps in this Venn diagram? What do these things say about me? What do these things say about me? Like, what's outside of this circle versus what's inside it? What exists in these different planes that, like, my wife or my friend or people in the audience or guy on the street would never put down? What are those things? What does that say about you? And then what could you make from these things? For me, these are just 3 of my clues, but they would be silliness, meaning, and cardboard. All right? Those are 3 very important things to me. I've realized that if I try to be serious, it doesn't work. I have to be silly. I have to bring levity to a situation. It's just what I like to do. I like making people laugh. I enjoy like getting people to crack, especially grumpy people. People who don't want to laugh are like the best challenge for me. I'm like, yes, I'm going to get a smile out of you if I have to. Whatever. So then start looking at the areas where these things overlap. So some of your things, we're looking for our place in the universe, but there's also like adjacent places. For me, silliness and meaning, that's a place where I spend a lot of time. The overlap of those things, that is my entire speaking career. Guys, cardboard doesn't come into my speaking career outside of like conferences like this. When I'm in a high school, they don't care that I made a mask out of cardboard. It's not what they hired me to talk about. But what they did hire me to talk about are things like meaning and compassion and kindness and how to make your school better. That's meaning, right? But students are not going to listen to you if you're not funny or if you don't have something that makes them go, oh, this guy seems cool. And so I do a lot of silliness. I tell a lot of stories in my talk that have nothing to do with anything other than I know if I give you this story, you're going to give me 5 more minutes of attention. That is my entire career right there. Is the overlap of silliness and meaning. The overlap of meaning and cardboard, that would be things like, oh wait, we're on the wrong thing. Sorry, silliness and cardboard. That would be a lot of the little projects that I made. The house mask or the centaur bike is a perfect example of this. There's no meaning in any of that. It was just a thing that I wanted to do, but it brought a lot of joy to a lot of people. And then meaning and cardboard. That's sometimes I get to make stuff that's more meaningful, like the Viking ship. And the Viking ship project, after that happened, my friends made a video about it. They're very talented videographers. They made me look a lot cooler than I looked. They took a half-hour interview and found the 2 minutes of good stuff that I said in there and made it into this video about the project. And in that video, I talked about how this silly idea that started as just a joke turned into something where over the 2 weeks that I'm crafting this Viking ship, I realized, like, man, this is actually an opportunity. Like, 30 is this milestone. It doesn't really mean anything, but we give it meaning. And that means that I can decide, what do I want to put on that ship? What do I want to leave behind in my 20s? Like, I can decide that this is going to be different about my 30s and my 20s. And it was a kind of this fresh start. And this video went up. It was the first time I'd ever gotten posted on Swiss Miss. It went all over. People were watching. And I started getting emails and messages and talks from people that would say, man, that really spoke to me. Like, I want to be able to let go of something. I want to be able to reinvent myself that way. Like, I want to be a part of something like that. So I thought, well, why not? So I started doing another Viking ship. This one's bigger. And the whole idea behind this ship is I'm asking people to write down something that they want to let go of, and then I'm going to build it into a ship and I'm going to set it on fire. And so I've asked people to send in like little note cards where they just write down something that's held them back, or something that they're like, this used to be me, but it's not me anymore. And guys, it's intense. Like, people have written down stuff like fear, self-doubt, I want to stop being insecure and hating who I look when I see in the mirror. You would not believe how many cards say something to that effect. Negativity. This one says, all the insecurities I've told myself because of things irrelevant people have said, all the thoughts that have made me feel worthless and like I wasn't enough. And then sometimes people are taking ownership of their own crap. And they go, you know what, I need to stop blaming my problems on other people. If I really want to get to where I'm going to be, I need to step it up. I need to stop sassing my mom, don't we all? And this one, man, I would say far and above, this is the most common thing that I get, is people saying, I just want to stop caring what other people think. I've gotten 7,000 plus cards sent in so far. And it's just this incredible thing where people have written letters to me like with the cards, and they'll go, man, I know it's just a silly note card, but this has like done something to me. So that was the overlap of meaningness, silliness meaning and cardboard. And then sometimes you got this, which is like the sweet spot of everything. Now this is the thing, is that all your projects don't have to fall into this. Your entire life doesn't have to fall into this. It's just how much time can you spend in that area. So you look at it and you ask yourself, does this match anything that I see in the world? And it's okay if the answer is no, and actually that's probably a good sign. Joseph Campbell said, if you can see your path laid out in front of you, step by step, you know it's not your path. Your own path you make with every step that you take, that's why it's your path. Final thoughts here. Number one, trust the process, aka you gotta collect the clues, all right? You have to collect the clues. Steve, he trusts the process. Usually by clue 2, people in the audience, you and I could look at it and be like, it's probably this. But Steve is an idiot, and he just keeps going. And once he finds his clues, he just trusts that it's going to work out. Trust the process. If you can't see any connections between your clues so far, just trust that you will. And keep going and looking for other clues, because sometimes one clue is going to be the one that you go, oh, that connects with this, and that connects with this. 2, Steve does a lot more than just collecting clues. In fact, we mentioned this earlier, most of the show is not him just looking for clues actively. It's him going through his life and checking his mail and helping his friends and doing this thing. I think some of us are too navel-gazy, and we're trying to figure out our passion, our place in the universe. Like, the best way to do that is to get out and get involved. Like, get in your community, get a library card, go like sign up to tutor a kid, go like just live your life, do your job and see what stuff comes up there. Like, don't just focus on collecting clues, because it's not gonna work. And then the third thing is that even with the brain capacity of a goldfish, Steve always solves the puzzle, aka don't give up, all right? Don't give up. You might think there's no hope, you might think, man, everyone else has found their place. Like, don't worry about them. That's your journey. Your journey is yours. Focus on that. And then finally, number 4, there's one right answer in the show, but not in life. This is a creative conference. Steve is always like, oh, look, a puppet and some buttons and string. It's a sock puppet. But a creative person can find 1,000 things to do with those materials. And so there's not just one right answer for you that's going to fill these things. It's the overlap of all these different areas. And there will be projects that fit better than others, but you're trying to keep that North Star there. Final thoughts. For realsies this time. Your place in the universe actually isn't something that you find, it's something that you make. It's something that you create with your life, it's something that you create with every day that you live, and your place in the universe isn't all about you. Your place in the universe should encompass your family and your friends and your community and the people that you love. It should be about something that's bigger than you, and it's something that will take you your entire life to create. Because if you figure that out at 22, and then that place never shifts or evolves or grows at all, and you're 42, you wasted 2 decades of your life. Your place is something that you create every single day with every single action that you take. And then I want to close with this quote. If we use our minds and take a step at a time, we can do anything that we want to do. Steve said that. But also the universe. I'm Scheele. Thank you guys for coming out.